Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Environmental Social Justice. I am your host, Wendy Nystrom. Today, we welcome back Miss Alli Gold-Roberts. She is the Senior Director of the Ceres State Policy Program. Welcome back, Alli.
Thank you for having me again.
Of course. And today, we're going to talk about clean trucks. Not only that the fact they're very important, but what is a clean truck? Just to start from the very beginning, what does this mean to people?
Yeah, well, first, even stepping back a little further, transportation, as many people know, is the largest source of climate pollution in the United States. Trucks are responsible for a disproportionate share of transportation emissions. So when you think about medium and heavy duty vehicles, they represent only 5% of US vehicles on the road, but they're responsible for 24% of vehicle greenhouse gas emissions. So the policies I'm going to talk about are really targeted at medium heavy duty vehicles, because when you're talking about kind of bang for your buck on climate mitigation, we're going after the small group of vehicles that have the biggest impact on the road. And most clean vehicles are vehicles that don't emit terrible pollution, of course, but there's a spectrum. There's plug-in hybrid, there's just cleaned up existing gas vehicles, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, electric or hydrogen vehicles that are zero emission. So there's the full gamut, but this is why it's so important, is just how significant their impact is on climate pollution.
I'm glad you brought up the fact that the big trucks account for more of the emissions than the smaller cars. So a lot of things we talk about on ESJ is it's not just on the consumer. All of this responsibility shouldn't be on the individual. Everyone has to take part in this. So that goes back to the corporations of clean up your trucks, clean up how you do business, clean up your transport. So real quick, we're talking about the climate risk and public health impact. I don't think a lot of people quite understand just how emissions or pollution from these trucks is hurting people.
Yeah. So 4 out of 10 Americans, more than 135 million people, live in communities that are impacted by unhealthy levels of pollution, which is especially concentrated in transportation hubs where exposure to vehicle pollution is the highest. And these risks, of course, are exacerbated in low-income and historically marginalized communities. For example, a person of color is up to 3 times more likely to be breathing the most contaminated air than a white person. So we know that distribution centers, major highways are along the quote unquote environmental justice communities, and those communities face an undue kind of burden upon them as a result of transportation emissions.
And just so people fully comprehend, these lower income communities, this leads to long-term damage to your lungs. This isn't just, they're exposed to it, they're breathing it, it's fine. We're talking asthma. We're talking more health effects with COVID-related illnesses. We're talking lung damage long-term. So this isn't just someone getting sick or being exposed. These are long-term and generational issues. And we need to address it, put a stop to it, and do the right thing. That is the most important message of everything we talk about, is doing the right thing. And now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of policy. This is where you shine.
Yeah, well, you're very kind. What are some of the policies that we know? And I love your mug. That's the kind of power we need. So there are a few different policies that are really targeted at cleaning up trucks. And of course, California, again, leads the way. Under the Clean Air Act, California has authority to set its own auto standards, leading the way for additional states to follow. And there are kind of 3 legs of the stool. I'll first talk about the first 2, because those are happening now and underway and being implemented. The first is the Advanced Clean Truck Rule, or ACT, ACT, Advanced Clean Truck. And this sets strong sales targets. So this is requiring the automakers to actually sell electric vehicles and vans in the coming years. So this is regulating the entire manufacturing industry of vehicles and saying, we want more electric vehicles available in classes, 3 through 8. We need the big trucks, we need the vans, we need everything. So this rule is hugely beneficial and is being implemented across the country. And then there's another one, which I'll talk about, is the heavy duty omnibus rule. This is the second leg of the stool, and HDO. That requires future diesel-powered commercial trucks to be equipped with extra technology that dramatically reduces nitrogen oxide pollution, which is dangerous to public health. So this is really relevant for the existing diesel powered vehicles that we're going to still have on the road. Certain, it's going to take some time for everything to go electric. So for those diesel powered commercial vehicles, this technology will be added that ensures a reduced nitrogen oxygen pollution effort. So those are the two, and then I'll talk about the third.
Sure. I just real quick, when you talked about things take time.
Yes.
And there are a lot of people say we need to act now. We absolutely must act now, but we have to understand that it's not a light switch. It's taking time. We have infrastructure to work on. We have new technologies to work on. There are even trucking companies that offer their trucks as a service. So you just lease them from them if you don't want to buy a whole new fleet of cars or trucks rather. And this will take time. And as you said, even making your existing diesel powered truck more energy efficient is also important.
Yes.
So many facets that we can discuss on this one.
Yeah, and this advanced clean truck rule, the one that just makes the vehicles more available, this is the one that is the first rule that has happened. And we've now seen 6 other states adopt it: Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington. And Colorado and North Carolina are in the process. So we're going to have 2 more. And then other states are also considering it. And a very similar group of states is going to be doing the heavy duty omnibus rule. So we're seeing this kind of ripple effect, of course, as states adopt what California has done. But also my role at Ceres is really organizing the business community. And to your point, there are companies who own their own fleets who are all in on this. So Siemens, Nestle, IKEA, Unilever, who say, these are the trucks we want to buy. Please make them available. And then there are other companies who don't own any fleet, but are kind of a part of the supply chain, right? So Etsy is completely reliant on others to ship their artisans' product. So they love this because they're saying, hey, we want to make sure that these are available so that then when our artisans choose how to ship something, they're going to be able to choose something that's more energy efficient, that has less pollution. So, it's from the whole supply chain. And to your point at the beginning about individual responsibility, then consumers can also choose products, choose, from companies who've made these types of commitments and are purchasing these vehicles as well.
And I actually do see that more often when you order online. It says, do you want to bundle your package with other things? Do you want to delay your shipping when other shipping goes out? So you now get options instead of, you don't need everything tomorrow or the end of the day. I know people loved that initially and they thought it was so cool, but that caused a lot more harm than good. So we kind of need to slow it down, put on the brakes, no pun intended. Actually, maybe there was, but put on the brakes and just say, we don't need things as quickly. And we need, to roll out these new energy efficient vehicles, be more efficient with what we already have. There is a multitude. And I mean, you have so much to talk about. So one of the things is how adopting these things, how is it going with labor relations?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. There are a lot of communities who are part of this process. It's, from the automakers and the labor unions who are part of that space. When you're thinking about the maintenance of electric vehicles, it's significantly reduced. So that does impact labor, but it also has huge public health benefits. So think about all of the repair men and women and inhaling diesel when they're, repairing major trucks, but now switching to electric vehicles. So you're not having all of that pollution. So I think it's about doing all the kind of education, bringing people along, ensuring, of course, we're appropriate and as much as possible that they are high wage, livable jobs, of course, for folks, but that we're bringing the entire supply chain along with us, that nobody is left behind. And another piece of this is really ensuring that there's uniformity so that it's, as many states as possible are participating. Ideally, we'll have even more ambition across the country at the federal level, but also that, communities are able to take advantage of these programs. So for example, that there's a used truck market that can also be able to participate. So small businesses can also buy used electric trucks too. So it's not just, big box companies, right? So we have to bring everybody along. And luckily there are a lot of these conversations happening. And the 2 rules I mentioned are 2 legs of the stool. There's a third one, but also that there have to be additional complementary policies that unfortunately, there's no silver bullet in this space, that we have to be as inclusive as possible in hearing from communities about what do they need and what are the barriers.
I'm just you brought up something very, very important, and the insurance nerd in me came out. when you brought up people inhaling the pollutants, the employees in labor relations, another issue is with the trucking industry, there's a lot of oil and grease and lubricants involved. And those are not only toxic, but the degreasers used to clean that off is highly toxic.
Yeah.
So that's all work comp claims right there. People get sick when they inhale that, when they expose their skin to it, if it gets through any kind of entry point in their body. So we are actually, it's not only just, it's better for you, it's better for your lungs. Long-term health benefits, guys. Work comp claims will go down. Your employees will be happier and healthier and better and live longer lives. Again, doing the right thing. So I just had to add in that caveat because I immediately thought the work comp thing.
With school buses, the whole movement towards electric school buses, and of course for the school bus drivers who sit and run those vehicles outside of the school. So that's all diesel pollution in front of our young children, of course, but then also for the drivers, for the workers, all of those pieces. So it's the maintenance benefits, the public health benefit. I mean, and I think it's really important that when we're talking about the cost, because there is a higher upfront cost, that we're thinking about the whole cost to the human being, to our, environment, all of those pieces. And that's a big part of this process too.
Yeah, and it is a bigger upfront cost, but in the long run, as you use that product, it actually evens it out and comes down. A lot of people don't think of it that way. They see an upfront cost, they get scared. It's like, actually, look at the whole life cycle. You'll see it's actually more cost effective. So talking about the challenges that we have with respect to this transition, there's so many. We're getting there.
Yeah. So this isn't just, easy. First of all, we don't buy new trucks or even new cars that often, right? So there's just time that it takes to transition out old for new.
Some guys invest like a lot of money in buying their own truck to be independent. So got to factor that in.
Yes, but we need to, in particular for electric trucks, and of course, hydrogen is a part of this mix too, but we need to build out the infrastructure for electric and hydrogen. So for electric trucks, that's a big deal. And luckily, there are two big federal pieces of legislation that just recently passed that will be a part of the solution set: the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA, and the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA. These two historic federal bills are putting the most money we've ever had into this process for states. So there's a new EV infrastructure program that's being built out just on federal highways. So that way those trucks can charge along major highway infrastructure. There's federal matching opportunities for states to do more. There's so much, but it's going to take coordination between states, within states, across agencies, with landowners about where the charge. I mean, talk about complicated. It's really, really complicated. And of course, businesses who have their own fleets, who want to charge at their own distribution centers. How are individual businesses or individuals a part of it? So we have a lot of work to do, but we are building out a national charging network, and the Department of Energy is on it in partnership with states and regions and individuals. So we've got a lot of work to do.
And I like the fact you brought up the coordination, because it's not just between the states and with the federal government, everybody, but it's also individual owners that want to tack on their own fees. Do you know, and I have no idea if this is possible, but is there a way to cap how much people charge to keep gouging? Like, let's say someone has like the one electric charging in 150 miles. I know with gasoline, there is like a bit of control over how much someone can raise their prices. Is that going to happen with electric and hydrogen?
Yeah, I imagine so. I mean, and I think we've already seen electricity prices are certainly more stable and less volatile than gasoline prices as well, which is another benefit. So there's a lot more predictability in kind of getting a sense of what will it cost to charge your vehicle. And there's really great benefits of time of use rates that can be designed by the utilities so that companies are encouraged to charge their vehicles, or even individuals are encouraged to charge their vehicles during off-peak time. So for example, overnight when people don't need as much heat or air conditioning. So there's a lot that can be done to help control and manage costs for sure.
Perfect. Yeah, because that is, people worry about, the what ifs and what could go wrong. They always think what could go wrong, what could go wrong. And yes, running out of electricity in your car. I had a friend, it happened to him in the middle of nowhere, but this was also 6 years ago, folks. We didn't have the structure we had now. So a little bit of a different situation. So retiring, getting people to adopt new trucks, influencing this change. How do we work on that mindset to get people comfortable with it?
Yeah, and I mean, I think there are a couple things. One is obviously just making sure more trucks are available on the market so that these vehicles are available, they're cost effective, that if you want one, you can buy it. Also, creating, of course, a predictable used EV market. Again, just like
Yep.
used car, you want to have that with trucks. But I think the model availability and that kind of used market are two big, keys to the castle. But the other, I should say, to the vehicle. But the other piece that I think is really important is that there are incentives, that there's infrastructure. So, it's a comprehensive process that's inclusive of everybody. And the other piece, the Advanced Clean Truck Rule doesn't require anybody to do anything. The third leg of the stool that I'm going to talk about, it does start to move towards requirements, but you have the vehicles available, you start to move in the right direction, you lower the cost, you make things more predictable for folks. And of course, you have all of these other, co-benefits around public health, around, reduced maintenance that just make the argument so much easier. And as more fleets move in this direction, you have business cases that you can look at of how did another company do it. So, Amazon is doing it. DHL is doing it. FedEx. So as these major companies are doing it, now we see the US Postal Service is going to move in this direction. So, as we have national networks of vehicles moving in this direction, we're going to get really good at, setting this off.
So you keep bringing up this third leg of the stool. I'm now
Yes.
curious. That's not in my notes.
So this is kind of what has to happen next, which is the Advanced Clean Fleets Rule. And this will set a sales target, this is a companion proceeding to the ACT rule. So this helps move fleets in the direction of having to buy these vehicles. And this will be, just a big step in the right direction. And California is working on this rule now. So this is going to be a little harder. And, as the state kind of hears from fleets about what do they need, what's available, what's possible, then there will be requirements over time for fleets to actually purchase these vehicles and move in this direction. And then California, like the other two rules, will probably be the leader that then other states will adopt. And that's where, we see right now already 20% of the US auto market is covered by the Advanced Clean Truck Rule. And we expect that then we will see continued kind of movement in this direction by other states.
And California does tend to lead the way. That is a very, very solid fact. I didn't know that until I moved to California. And then I realized we do a lot of public policy here that the rest of the states do adopt. And it is the betterment for everyone. So I do meet people who say they will never give up their petroleum car or their truck or whatever. And I get it. I mean, it's what you have. You don't want to, buy something new. But the long term is, again, and I hate to beat this into the ground, is doing the right thing, making life better for not just yourself, but everyone around you in your circle, and just cleaning up the air a little bit. I mean, I was actually born in California, folks. I have vague memories of the smog. Not good. We've gotten better, but we can do more. So again, we're talking the social justice aspect, clean air aspect, benefits to the health. Work comp will go down if people are healthier, especially outdoor workers. On that, because I know you are super busy. You are pretty much running the world when it comes to policy. Yes, you are. It's okay. What can people do to help Ceres? How can they find you, work with you, volunteer, donate, guys? They're a 501c3. How can they get involved? Because it does take all of us.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Wendy. And of course, as a nonprofit organization, we are certainly reliant upon individual and foundation support for the work that we do. But I would say, just as important is getting involved. So, the California Air Resources Board, which regulates and sets these standards, these kind of three legs of the stool, they hear directly from the public and stakeholders. They want to know what you want, what you need. And, business can have a big, loud voice. We know that industry can have a loud voice, and we want to make sure that the public and environmental justice communities and those who really care about equity have as much a seat, if not even a greater seat at the table, to be frank.
Yeah.
So there are always kind of stakeholder engagement processes led by the state, but also reaching out directly to your assembly member or your state senator and saying, listen, we want to see this ambition. California must lead the way. Lead the charge, pick up the phone. Legislators do respond to constituent inquiries. You can send an email, but then also, with your own kind of purchasing decision, you certainly can look at companies who've made commitments in this space. Ceres organizes something called the Corporate Electric Vehicle Alliance, or CEVA. And these are about 30 companies who've all committed to 100% fleet electrification. These companies are not all there yet. They've got work to do, but you can look at those brands and say, okay, wow, I didn't know that when I go to Hertz, I could actually rent an EV, and that Hertz is working towards electrifying all of their vehicles so that way when you want to rent a car, you can do it. And it's a great way to try out an electric vehicle before you want to buy one. So the next time you're on vacation, do that. We're trying to work with businesses to move them in this direction. And I think consumer demand is a big part of the driver. So absolutely.
You make decisions every day with the dollars you spend.
Yes.
And that is the most important factor, folks, is you actually do have the control. You are dinging like crazy.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. That just means you're very important and you have a lot of people who need you today. So on that, I will say thank you so much for coming back. Always a pleasure talking to you. I love the work you guys are doing. You guys are the leaders when it comes to sustainability and getting big businesses on board. So much congratulations to that. Thank you again, guys. I'm Wendy Nystrom, host of Environmental Social Justice, with my special guest, Alli Gold Roberts. Thank you so much again. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Wendy.
Take care.